The stats are telling us 50% of the people, they will have to be upskilled. And people think, okay, well, it will never touch me, but it might touch you. And if it touches you, what you going to do with it? Are you going to break down? Or actually it's going to be a very good moment for you to learn something new. We are trying to make our learning management platforms as cool as our social media. And it looks good. It looks cool. It looks nice sometimes. But the problem is it's not effective in education. If a student doesn't want to learn, he will not learn.
Welcome back to EdTech Thoughts. In today's episode, I'm joined by Greg Margas, an educator and EdTech practitioner whose path to education took him from corporate life in Ireland to teaching in places you wouldn't expect, including a prison. We talk about what actually drives learning engagement, why making learning platforms feel like social media can be a trap, and whether Moodle and LMS platforms are still relevant in the age of AI. And we go straight into the big question. How do we avoid repeating the EdTech tragedy, adding more tools, more noise, and not enough impact, especially now when AI is accelerating everything? Let's get into it. Hi, Greg. I'm delighted to have you here.
Delighted also, Chris. It's brilliant to be here, and happy Monday. This is what we say in Ireland.
Yes, indeed. It's Monday, and I'm pretty positive. So to start it with, I wanted to build kind of a background to our listeners, to with whom we are speaking to, and if you could tell us about your path to education. I know that you've spent 16 years in Ireland and worked across startups, training and education projects of all kinds. How did your career end up revolving around education?
So, Chris, do you want a short version or an abbreviated version or a long version? That's the question.
I want the true one.
The true one. Okay, so I don't know, is it a funny story or a sad story, but I had this fixed mindset that I'm very bad in maths in my high school when I was learning, and I decided I really want to work in IT as a computer science specialist. However, with math, I didn't have a chance. So what do you do when you want to be IT specialist and you are bad with maths? You go and you are a computer science teacher. So I went and I studied pedagogy, and actually it went very well. But on the third year, I had a test in front of the class, and I had to pass the test, and I had to lead a class. And once I stood in front of the class, I couldn't say a word. I honestly couldn't. I froze. I couldn't say a word. And it really impacted me so strongly that I decided I don't want to do anything. I don't want to have anything to do with teaching, or because I just can't do it. So I went into technical sales. Then I moved to Ireland, and in Ireland I was in sales in a corpo. And then after a while, I decided I don't want to do it. Like it's not my path. I don't feel fulfillment. So I started effective training, CA, Adobe Associate, Adobe Certified Associate, then Adobe Certified Trainer, and I started to teach new technologies and English in Ireland. And it led me to a lot of places, to training centers, however, also to one of the biggest prison in Ireland, and also to public libraries.
You mean prison, like literally, not figuratively?
Yeah, literally for half a year I did creative writing in prison, and I actually found this, the word vocation from Latin is like your calling, vocation. And I found this vocation, and I decided I want to do it. Then I co-founded digital marketing agency. But from there, we jumped into innovation, and actually, innovation was the beginning of the work with higher eds. And I think this is where I actually found my calling, and now I'm very grateful that I'm here. So I came back to Poland, and I started to work with universities. So the universities, not only with universities, but this is kind of the work.
But what was the deciding factor? What was the moment when you decided, like, that I have to do this. I have to be into education. Like you, I'm asking because it's not like you are born and you're born with love to education. You're not. You're born with love to learning, right? But not to education. So how did you end
Yeah.
up?
I actually didn't like my formal education. So it is a tough question, but I still remember this one moment when I stood in front of this big window at the corpo office, and I was looking at the people, and I thought I'm basically just looking at how people live, and I'm standing in the same place all the time. And it wasn't in that time about education, but I felt I have to change something because life passes me by. And I think, sometimes it's funny what we see. When I was a teenager, I wanted to be in education, and it came back to me. And sometimes we need to make this trip to find out what our roots are. So in that time, I decided I want a change because I had a degree in education. I went into a direction of education, but then when I saw influence, especially in the prison, where I could see that I can change lives at least a little bit in people's life, then I felt this calling. Okay, it can impact people's life. It can do something good. What if I could do it on a bigger scale? So yeah, so that was the road probably.
Do you have kind of a story from this prison that showed you this exact thing?
Yeah. There's few stories. There was this one guy
Can you
who.
share them or
So I'll show you the funny one, but the funny one is.
show us the tattoos?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who basically face consequences of what they do and they regret, but they are stuck in the moment. There was this one guy, older guy, who sold his hair for a cancer
Foundation.
foundation, and he was like a father to so many of the young prisoners. That was amazing. But there was this one guy, Martin, and Martin was really depressed, and he was waiting for his another court meeting, and he went through a very tough time. And the funny, I gave him something. I'm not gonna tell you what I gave him, but I gave him a piece of jewelry, and it was kind of like to show him confident. It's gonna be okay. And he went through this season, and he wrote to me that he wants to find me to give it back to me, and how actually it influenced his life and how good it was. The funny stuff is that I didn't want him to give it back to me because I didn't want to share my address. However, in that funny situation, small situation, I found that you can influence people through teaching in a more profound way that you can imagine. It was creative writing workshops. However, it ended up with kind of a friendship. We lost contact. However, you can influence people who lost their jobs. You can influence people who are in prison. You can influence students who don't know which direction to go now. It's so hard to choose a direction, especially nowadays when we don't know what to learn, what competencies are very important. So you can influence, so probably with one word, I would say influence, big word in education. And maybe some teachers, they don't realize how much influence they have or they could have.
Like positive and negative influence as well.
Exactly.
And what problem in learning or maybe in education more broadly do you feel personally pulled to solve?
Okay, so I don't want to say every year is something different because we want to solve something. However, at the beginning it was engagement, how to engage people, because we know that e-learning is a great platform, and how else can we reach people around the world? And now we have stats that 39%, and then there's another statistic, 54% people until 2030 needs to be upskill because of the change on the global market. So we know It's a huge tool. How can we do it? We don't have enough trainers. We don't have enough instructors and teachers. So the only way to do it is through e-learning, through learning management systems. However, the old problem is always engagement. Those people, they go on their compliancy training, they click things or they sign for courses and they don't do it. They have it in a different browser and they just want to pick it up, get the cert and go. First question was always learners' engagement. Then there was also underserved places, how to reach the lost genius. Have you ever heard of lost genius
Yes.
idea? That
Yes.
there's so many geniuses that were born, but we never discovered their potential because they didn't have formal education. So that was the second, and that's why actually it was so exciting to work at Innovation, because Innovation is doing one of those projects with GIZ, and they reach those people in not only Africa, but especially Africa, and they can reach with free education through this platform to so many places. So unserved population. However, nowadays, this is very important for me. So that's the topic, how to not only motivate people, but help people focus. Because we are overstimulated and we have this idea, if we make our learning LXP, let's call it learning experience platforms or LMSs, very engaging, very similar to the environment that our learners experience every day, this is how we're going to reach them. So the mistake we are trying to do is we are trying to make our learning management platforms as cool as our social media. And it looks good. It looks cool. It looks nice sometimes. But the problem is it's not effective because we take them from one environment that is overstimulated and we put them into another environment which is filled with notification, games, and everything we can dream of, and they are again dopamine driven, and they are not learning.
But so how do you know that it's not effective? There are actually kind of a research results or
There is research. I don't have it right now with me, but there's huge amount of research of how we use our phones, how we are overstimulated, and how we cannot focus. So it's huge. But if you ask me, Chris, do we have any reports about learning management systems that are overstimulated? Are they good for us or no? I don't have research. But I think it's very similar. If in life we are overstimulated and we cannot focus, probably in a platform you want.
Yeah, that for sure. I recently read a book, "The Anxious Generation," and it's exactly about what you're speaking. It's like we have a research that confirms that use of smartphones and social media in particular is very harmful to adolescent people, to children, let's say under 16 years old. But on the other hand, you compared that social media with the social scrolling algorithms and mechanisms with educational platforms, and that's something that should, well, like frankly speaking, like I would be, how to put that, eager to agree that it could work, that if we will engage people the same way as the social media platform does to learning platforms, so in a way to make them addict to those learning platforms, to the learning problems, maybe this is the way. I'm just like,
I think it's a very good thought. I'm not saying it cannot be like this. We don't have enough data. Probably microlearning is working. So those very small pieces of content, it is working. But what you used, you use this word addictive.
addictive.
We
Exactly.
want to addict them. Do we want to addict? Like if we addict them to learning, and it's very so then it's all about content and how we serve it and how we digest it. And maybe that's the way. And maybe I'm not speaking about this so much. So microlearning, that's okay. But let's not give them thousands of notification chats, and because we're trying to create those environments when they feel they can communicate all the time, and it's like a real online environment. But if we could give them tools to cut themselves off from this environment for a while and go into focus. I know new generation, maybe they learn in a 3.5 minutes segments or 15 segments, but I think for really effective training, we need to go deeper. So that's probably one of the branches I'm focusing on. And I'm not saying that other ways are bad, but I'm trying to figure out how to create flow in learning users or students or workers stuff.
I find it very difficult. As you said, we have like the focus span for 30 seconds. People are addicted to smartphones, social media at a broad scale. And on the other hand, you are trying to engage people to learning process. Well, and that's very difficult. How do you do that?
How do you engage?
What are your tricks to engage people into learning, to tuck them in?
And that's again another problem we need to solve, because we can see how AI can engage people through personalization, personalized learning paths. We can check their competencies and we can push them into direction. However, one of the smart saying, and I think a lot of people is saying that in education, if a student doesn't want to learn, he will not learn. So first we need to create the need to learn, but probably it's personal, it's more personal. So if someone doesn't want to learn, whatever you're going to do, if you are a content provider, if you're a content specialist, it's still going to be hard. And another thing nowadays, EdTech, all those smart features, AI, I still believe that our passion as teachers, as educators, as trainers is very important, and it is how we are passionate about the subject, and so you can engage them with passion. And probably you remember from your college or from your school, from your high school, you remember probably passionate teachers who impacted you for the rest of your life. And it's going to be hard to replace it with just AI. So I think it's still human.
That's true. I remember two types of teachers, passionate ones and the drunk ones.
Yeah.
This is my school.
And did the drunk ones influence you any?
I don't know. You have to speak to my therapist, I guess.
Okay.
I'm sure that those passionate ones influenced me. And I'm often joking that the reason why I am in education in particular is that because no one was able to discourage me enough.
Yeah.
Probably because most of people are like put off of the education. We don't want it, we don't like it. We like associate it with bad things and with forced learning. And that I love what you're speaking about, the internal need for learning. And then you learn and you don't know that the process is ongoing. You just learn. You learn naturally, and I find it very difficult in artificial situation, like sitting in front of a computer. So you are implemented in your life, in your professional life. You implemented a lot of LMSs, like Moodle, for example. And I'm wondering whether a platform like Moodle is today still relevant. Can you engage people and learn and integrate with all those tools and all those knowledge, all the knowledge we have about the effective e-learning? Is it possible to implement that into Moodle, or is it like a thing of a past already and we should move forward to new fancy shining systems?
Is it legacy or is it up to date?
Yes, is it legacy?
Of course, I need to speak politically correct.
Yeah, so let's give me the first political answer. I will cut it off, and then let's go to the true one.
So maybe I will start like this. We need to break a spell. I really like what one of my friends and a PhD, Bartosz Muczyński, he started a conference a year ago in Gdańsk, and he asked people, have you ever used VR? And people raised their hands and they said, oh, we used VR. And then he asked them, have you used VR in gaming in gaming environment or in educational environment? And most of the people said educational one. And then he asked them another question, what did you think about it? And most of the people said, it's okay. Like, it's okay. And he made a point. It's because it's not that VR is not good, but it's because this is how you met VR for the first time. If you played Half-Life, which is filled with details and everything, it would be very engaging for you. But because you met it in educational sector, you carried a floppy disk from one place to another, and it's supposed to be engaging. And I think the spell is that most of the people, they met Moodle in education also, and sometimes it was outdated Moodle. Moodle changed a lot. And if you want to think about Moodle, think about a core. You have a core, and then you have those pieces of puzzles or pieces of Lego blocks everywhere, more than 2,000 plugins, a huge community that is developing Moodle. Moodle is open source, and you can basically, if you have an idea, if you have a vision, and if you have a problem to solve, you can do everything with Moodle. It can look very old if you want to, and if you don't update it, and if you don't have enough manpower to work on it. And this is what you discover. But it can look very engaging, very modern if you have enough ideas, manpower, developers. And this is what we do actually for universities. We started with Sorbonne years ago with ESSEC Business School. Now we work with names in Poland to make it, effective, engaging, up to date. However, it is like a skeleton. We need to understand it's like a skeleton, and in order for it to be engaging, you need to breathe life into it. I think that's a good word. You need to breathe life in it, and you need to have vision how it's supposed to look like. So in some ways, for some people, it can be legacy. If you take it in the right direction, it can be very modern,
And would you share a few practical steps for example, university lecturer that uses Moodle in an old way? What could one teacher, one lecturer do in order to make to rise the Moodle on the next level, to make it more engaging? Is it possible, or we need a big team? Because big team and money is usually a big hurdle, a threshold not being passed usually. Maybe there are simple steps we could take.
I think it's a difficult one because mostly it's on IT admins team. They are responsible for making it engaging, and some they do very good job, some they are overworked. For teachers, he doesn't have too much power to change it. So whatever he gets, he needs to work in line of what he gets. So the power he has on is the content. So first thing, he needs to start using it. Yeah, that's the first thing. There's a lot of teachers or lecturers, they don't use it. So he needs to start using it and be passionate enough to learn the capabilities. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do in a course format because he would be probably responsible for course. So he can change things. It doesn't need to be just PDFs, PDFs. He can do quizzes. He can use H5P. He can use interactive videos. It's more about his imagination. However, I'm still afraid that just a single teacher won't change how the platform will look like. He can make at least his content a little bit more engaging, but it has to be a bigger vision.
From what you've said, it requires a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and a lot of creativity from the teacher, from the creator of the materials himself or herself.
A bit of passion, a bit of passion. A bit of passion. I want to do it. I want to stand out. I want to do it engaging for the students, for the new students now. I did it for 20 years the same way. Maybe it's time to learn something new, because the technology, it is accelerating. So what I did 7 years ago, it might not work nowadays.
And do you, in your professional approach to for example, optimizing Moodle, do you use AI in this process? Or maybe you in process of implementing Moodle in a right way and also creating AI agents that will somehow interact with the material to help in the learning process later on?
Yeah, so AI is a big deal. We know about it, and however, to implement it in the right way, that's a longer road. And in 2023, everyone was thinking, okay, it will change everything, and we were predicting or forecasting, will it replace the teachers? and things like this. And we could see, Salman Khan Academy started with OpenAI 3.5. Actually, the story is that Sam Altman and the team gave him the prototype before it was publicly available, and he started to really play with GPT 3.5, I think it was, and he discovered that it can be used as a tutor in an amazing way. He changed the narrative of it, and that this is how Kamigo was published and available. So everyone was looking, okay, so now we will have those AI mentors and it's going to be so cool and we will reach, all those places, third world countries, and AI will solve so many problems. However, with the time, we realize it's not so easy. Moodle itself, it has a content creator, AI content creator, course creator, AI question bank, so there's more. However, because it's open source, it's so easy to add more and more. What we do in innovation at Innovation is more creating AI agents or AI assistants based on the data of the customers. And I know everyone is doing it now, but especially with big universities, it is not so easy to do it, because there's a lot of questions about, privacy. Will AI, like, probably you've heard about OpenAI, that now they want to target their users with ads. If you have an account on OpenAI ChatGPT, he knows everything about you. Because we know now from stats that people don't use AI now, majority, to create new ideas or to content creation. Now we know from a Harvard report that they use it for psychological help and companionship. So now we know AI knows everything about you, and so much easier it will be to target people with advertisements. So, and we know that universities, they are afraid of that kind of use. So there's a lot of, data policies. There's a lot of things we need to go through. However, AI, I don't think modern learning management system can not have at least AI mentor, assistant, or help in designing content.
And how does they work in practice from your perspective? If you have to give them a score from 1 to 10, where 10 is it's almost human-like, or maybe even exceed a human experience. I mean, how do you rate the agentic teachers? Are they a real thing right now, or they are just something to play with and the thing that you have to have because everyone speaks about it?
I think if you look at Kamigo, Khan Academy, it went very well. It doesn't give you the answers. It pushes you into the direction, and it really teaches you. My kids used it in the past, and it was really well made in different segments. What I can see now, it's all about how it is, what the data is, and how it is trained. Especially with the text agents, assistants, it is better if it's well trained, and it is giving you the help. I think Google now, Gemini released a teaching tutor, and I tested it a week ago, and it's not working bad. It is really helping you. It doesn't give you the correct answer, it pushes you into direction to learn. So it does what it should do. I wouldn't say it's a teacher, so maybe 6. Maybe I would give 6 for now. 6. And if we talk about avatars, about those avatars with voices, and that's still, we need to put some work into it. It's still, you can see it's avatar, though they are high resolution avatars. I forgot the word. What's the word for this new technology? CP. I forgot the word, but it doesn't matter. But they are very high level avatars. They are probably much better. But if you use Synthesia or what's ID people and what else is there? There's one more. You can still see it's an avatar. So it depends from the learner's perspective. Some learners, they want to listen to avatar. I would be bored and I would be like, oh, I don't want avatar to teach me. So, but with assistants, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Okay. So teachers don't have to worry for at least not for now.
Maybe, however, that's another joke. But you see how sometimes we are overworked. I do lectures also, and I work at the university, and you are overworked, and sometimes you basically are tired. You are tired, especially when you have those blocks of 8 hours per day and you need to teach. And empathy is disappearing because you're just tired. And AI will always be empathetic if you train him. He will always ask you, he will always tell you, that was a great question. I think you are doing so well. And we won't. Sometimes we are tired and we are just, leave me alone. We won't say it. And with this, AI is actually very good. So I'm not sure, like it's very hard to predict.
On the other hand, this is not human. This is not, I strongly believe that we need this human thing, this human factor in the process of learning. It doesn't come like you can learn, I don't know, a poem, for example. There is a rote learning, and there is a place for rote learning as well. But on the other hand, the most important things that you learn in life are going through an experience and the human side of our existence. So maybe it's not like agents or the AI will replace all learning, but will find its niche, its place in the whole ecosystem. So there will be places where human interaction will be even more of a value. And on the other hand, there will be places where AI will do better job simply.
And I think that's the right point. And this is the start we started here when you said, like how people influence us. And I think people do influence us. You cannot, probably AI will not influence you for a lifetime, but it can help you with some processes of learning. But the influence, the motivation you get from real people. And then there's another thing, learning in the classroom or learning online. It will always be different in the classroom. It will always be different. However, sometimes we won't have a choice. So we take what we can from the technology.
That sounds as a wrap up. That's the conclusion. Now we can end this episode. Just kidding. I have a question. One of the questions yet still. So moving forward, but staying in the AI region, what is the biggest illusion we're buying right now about AI in education?
And I think we spoke about it, but there's another one, which is illusion. But first, AI will replace teachers, or AI will not replace teachers. We don't know. And that's the illusion, because sometimes we say AI will replace teachers. Probably, like we said, we need this human touch. AI will not replace teachers. Or what about teachers who don't want to grow and will always be in the same state of mind and will never be empathetic? Then they might be replaced. And another is what we expect from AI. Expectation. So that's another illusion. Sometimes we have huge expectations, which are illogical and which are basically, for now, not possible to maintain or deliver. And we think AI will do all. AI will replace every segment of our lives. We can see where AI still sucks. It's like, you probably had it. I had it few weeks ago. We have our own internal model trained on our data, with some very important instruction and policies, and I trusted it because I thought like, wow, now it's like no hallucination there. And he hallucinated on one point. I didn't check it. I sent it, and then I shoot. I didn't check it. I didn't check it, so it's still not perfect. And sometimes we require from AI perfection. It can make mistakes still, even if it's trained on your own data. It can hallucinate.
And so if I understood it correctly, the biggest illusion here is that we can predict the future. We don't know whether it will go left or right. We don't know. And what would you replace this narrative with? Something more honest, more workable?
So how would I replace the narrative of AI?
Yep.
Yeah, AI will help us, and the train is going very fast, and we will not go further without AI. And like we spoke before, to reach some places and to help people to learn in an efficient way and to reach education where they cannot reach underserved places, we need AI. However, we need to be still aware that AI will not solve all our problems, especially in education. In education, it will be this kind of, what's the word, hybrid. Modern teacher who knows how to use AI and he uses it where he needs it. I think there was a teacher who said it some time ago. It went into New York Post, and she basically said, I wanted AI to help me with my laundry and my
Exactly, like the daily routines and not
daily routines, not with my creativity. And I think still creativity is on the teacher's side, because now teachers, lecturers, trainers, they have all the tools, everything. But it's all about how they're going to use it.
they even have too much tools and too little time. And that's something the other thing I wanted to speak to you with you today, because there is AI is a new tool, and we building like Moodle with AI or AI as a software of a separate software. We are bringing new tools into this crowded ecosystem, and we are giving new tools to those overloaded teachers. And on the and that's the reality today. We all are hyped about AI and new tools, and everyone in education is creating new tools using AI, of course. And on the other hand, we are seeing the EdTech tragedy narrative, that there are too many EdTech tools and they are not bringing value, they are not improving learning. And how do we make sure that we don't make again the same mistake like with those interactive whiteboards?
That's a good question, Chris, and not easy. We experience something we can call FOMO, yeah, fear of missing out. And it's this AI digital FOMO, fear of missing out, and we want to learn all those tools. However, we don't need it so often, but someone is using it, so then we want to use it. What can we do? I think we need to stop first. Stop for 3 months. Don't buy anything. Just stop and think of a problem, and think how it can solve your problem, your biggest problems, and then do small pilots maybe, or use your if you are a teacher, it depends, is it organization or you are just a teacher, you can use those tools that really address your problem, because sometimes those tools with interactive videos, with cuts, with nano banana, but like, do they really come across your problem? So I think instead of jumping into everything, and we will be bombarded with everything, and you will have lectures or trainings where your students will know more about from you. Will actually raise a hand, and they will say, but there is this tool, and you might say, you need to be authentic to say, okay, I didn't know about this tool at all, because there's hundreds of them now, but I use what works for me. So instead of jumping into this train and jumping into all those new ideas or new technologies, find what really is important for you, what works for you. Stop for a while. Don't buy, unsubscribe. Yeah, probably. I don't know if it answered your question.
Well, sort of. It raises two other questions, but
No.
I guess digression is a sign for a good conversation. When you were answering, the thing crossed my mind that how does it connect with e-learning at all? Because from on the one side you are, and I totally agree with you, saying about those like people, those teachers, giving a human factor importance, and that you need a mentor of a kind, not only a teacher or you can't just read out slides. A mentor with a relationship with a student. And on the other hand, you are constructing e-learnings where there is no human connection at all or barely. So where these words mix? Maybe we should, like you mentioned, hybrid education as well. Maybe this is the way to enhance the engagement and somehow mix the real education with e-learning.
It's the same like with AI art. It's gonna be hybrid. It's the same with education. It needs to have a human touch. However, at least at the beginning, we would travel a lot around Poland, and we would speak with students. And it was curious enough. We would ask. I remember this one session, 180 students maybe on the hall, and we gave a training about AI, and we asked this question: if you had, who's your favorite teacher or your favorite, lecturer? And they would think about it, and we would ask them, if you have him 1 hour per week, 24 hours per
Mhm.
day, but it's AI and it's fed with the same knowledge that your teacher, which one would you choose? And we asked this question very genuinely because we didn't know.
Mhm.
And the answer was actually surprising because it was half-half. So
Okay.
half of the students would say 1 hour with my mentor, with my best teacher is enough. Another would say 1 hour is not enough. We would like to have access to him 24 hours
Mhm.
because we might have a question in the middle of the night. Maybe that's enough if it's his knowledge and it's AI. So it depends from their perspective. However, it still pushes us into direction of hybrid. The ideal version would be 1 hour with your
Mhm.
mentor, and then you have 24
Exactly.
hour access to him through AI. And
Mhm.
in some schools they do it. And it
Mhm.
works. I know some very good doctors, PhD doctors, they train their models and they are available for their students.
That's interesting concept. So your advice is very good for the buyers of EdTech tools, but what about the founders of EdTech software or tools in general, maybe hardware as well? What would you advise to those EdTech founders not to repeat the mistakes as we spoke before?
Yeah.
In other words, let me make it more precise. In other words, what should we all do not to exacerbate the problem? Because I feel like we are adding like fuel to the fire right now.
Yeah, I think we are, as those who buy it, we are also overstimulated and we want to do everything. So find one problem. I think find one problem and try to solve it. This big word now, it was EdTech, now there's neural EdTech, and
Mhm.
there's so many ideas we can approach. Gamification is huge. I know people who build very good companies from scratch just on a gamification plugin. I know people who open their companies and they doing very well just on accessibility plugins, how to make e-learning accessible. So find your niche, find one problem you want to solve. Don't throw yourself into everything because there's huge amount of possibilities, but try with one. It didn't work, you try with another, and then if you try with 10, probably one will succeed. So be endurant in doing so. However, I don't think it's like there's too many possibilities and you can catch yourself trying everything. Still believe edtech is a huge sector. Next to games is huge. It's going to grow. We will have to figure out some things. So if you are in this sector, it's a very good place to be. It's a very good place to travel, see what other people do, but find the problem that really itches you.
Mhm.
It's with every startup,
Mhm.
problem and solve it. That's the easiest. If I could do it, maybe I would be in a different place because it's not so easy. I know it's not so easy. So it's trying, it's trying. Every year something's trying something different. Every 3 years.
But true, we all have pains, we all see the problems, but we don't have an idea for a solution. And that's a difficult part. Like figure out what will be the solution, but a solution for everyone. And in education, I guess it's the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
You can solve the problem for your family or maybe your local group or a school or even a countrywide. Maybe you can solve a problem for UK, but how does it scale to Africa?
Yeah. It's different. It's different.
Completely,
Probably
completely.
then there are some ways, to solve some major problems, but first try it in your local group, and then it might work farther. Yeah, to solve the problems, it's not easy. Technology will help us. It's growing fast. It's growing fast. It's accelerating. So I think you probably had a few ideas
Mhm.
that you are not able to implement because of limitations, and it's changing every year. Like two problems. One, the universities in Europe are trying to solve it for more than a decade. It's a dropout problem, and it's a very complex. It's not only about learning. It's more complex than we think about. It has many layers, and sometimes we want to simplify problems, and solve them simple way. So it is about going deeper and deeper. But I believe I'm positive. I'm always positive and optimist. So I believe it's possible to solve at least some problems, not all.
And for example, to grab just one, how would you solve the dropout problem, for example, for universities?
Will I give you a more risky idea or just an idea?
I'm all in for risky.
Okay, so risky. Oh yeah, I will tell you about this one. So there's this research, but it's in corporate world. If you find a friend at your work or a pal or a buddy, you probably will not leave this work so easily if you are alone. And we can see at the university, one of the problems with students, they are lonely. So if we could figure this out, then it's a huge thing. So now the first non-controversial is let's connect them with their skills, or I don't know, let's assess them and connect them with first year student with the fourth year student, and they mentor someone who would help them. More risky is give them a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and if they quit, they lose the girlfriend or a boyfriend. And then they probably, maybe they won't quit. And we figured out this 2 years ago, but we never even tried. But imagine you got attached to your virtual partner because you are at the university and you want to now drop out, but it would be taken away. So that's more, that's risky.
That's risky. I thought of even a riskier strategy. For example, when someone will want to resign from a university, you lose your smartphone or a social media account. That would be even worse.
But social media, like university social media or social
No,
media?
like
Yeah,
your account on Instagram or or a Facebook
yeah.
or Meta. So
That would be a deal breaker.
that would be detrimental. But this is something interesting because you will when you speak with, for example, primary schools. I don't think you have problem with, well, the general, or maybe you do, but I don't know. But it's more often for primary schools and maybe even secondary to forbid smartphones and social media during the puberty. And you said that a student at universities feels lonely, and maybe that's because everyone's just attached to their smartphone, not speaking on the corridors. And maybe sometimes because of the hybrid education, they don't even come to the university building. They don't attend to campus. So it changed. And this is like, well, yeah, a girlfriend will change the
Yeah. And there's another trend, we can see it in Finland. They're gonna forbid, I think, phones in some schools. I don't remember, is it schools or elementary schools? But there's a huge push to do things in the classroom, to do flow sessions in a classroom, to do laboratories in a classroom. And I think, again, we visited one of the technical higher education school, and the guy who was in charge of this place, he said, we have this team, and when they meet together, they send us emails all the time. Can we leave the laboratory open till 12 o'clock? Because they get into such a flow state, and they love it. So there's another trend which e-learning cannot solve, So again, it's hybrid. It's hybrid.
And if you could advise education leaders with one practical playbook for the next 12 months, let's say, what would it be? What would you recommend doing first, second?
So educational, you're saying education.
Yeah, education leader to move, to move away from the hype, to focus on outcomes. What will be the like? We've heard already, like don't buy. 3 months, don't buy. I
Yeah,
like that
yes.
advice.
So probably I'm going to repeat myself, but first 0 3 months, I would say stop. Define 2 3 measurable outcomes, and audit existing tools. Audit what you have, check what you have, stop, make sessions and think what you have and where you need to get. Then I think small pilots, and this is what we do with a lot of companies. We do those small proof of concepts, MVPs or small pilots. Try few of them with one team and measure real world application, not just the dashboard, and then learn on what you got from this data, what is really working for you, and then scale what works, kill what does it, and that's probably 1 year plan. So don't do it emotionally. We usually buy emotionally, hype fades, but systems that are really well thought of, they endure.
Okay. And like we are approaching the end, and I'm figuring out that sadly, because it was almost an hour already, and I had so many questions still unasked. So that asks for another episode, but maybe let's leave that for a future us. But I wanted to ask you one philosophical question to end this thing up. And we are living in a world where the AI is entering or already entered, maybe better wording, education and schools and universities in every, it's in vocational education and the schooling system. It's everywhere, but it's still evolving. We still don't know left or right, as you mentioned. We're still figuring out ourselves, role of teachers in this whole setup, role of tools, what edtech vendors should do, what they shouldn't, what schools should do, and so on and so on. And on the other hand, this will end in some time. And when you look back in 10 years to this moment, what would make you say that we as an edtech sphere, let's say, like people producing content and technology in education and for education, what would make you say that we used this moment well?
Maybe when we have another episode in 10 years, I will answer this question. No, just joke. Not in 10 years.
I have to check my calendar. Wait.
Yeah. Okay, in Poland, equal access. So kid in rural Poland, same quality as, let's say, Sorbonne University. The same in the world, fewer lost geniuses. So if we could reach to those people with unequal access, and thanks to EdTech, there's an equal access to education. When you think about the future also, there will be some dark times for some. Some people think it's a hype. It's not a hype. There will be job losses, and we can see in 2026 in the United States a lot.
And it just started.
No, it started. It comes to Europe. So if thanks to EdTech, thanks to those e-learning platforms with AI, powered by AI, we could help people to start with a new path, that would be awesome. So take them out of the darkness of losing job and give them opportunities of how to learn and discover themselves in a new path. That would be, and give them confidence, give them the tools. That would be brilliant. And that's why I think there's a huge responsibility actually on educational sector now, because again, the stats are telling us 50% of the people, they will have to be upskilled, and people think, okay, it will never touch me, but it might touch you. And if it touches you, what you gonna do with it? Are you gonna break down, or it's gonna be a very good moment for you to learn something new and discover that actually what you learn and you love it, and that's your new path. So if education could do that in 10 years, so we have an equal access, and then we have people who are empowered by education and confident, that would be awesome. That would be awesome in 10 years. And then we could say we used AI in the right way. We didn't just sell the data of all our learners to push them or target them with ads. No, we gave them the tools, to accelerate, to improve, to grow. That's the good.
That's the future I look forward to.
Me too.
So I would love to wrap it up. So we started with the reason why you started with education, and that was an engagement. You wanted to influence and improve people's lives through education, and education gives you all the potential and occasions for that. We spoke a little bit about Moodle and how to do it broadly, about the LMSs and how to do that right. So like answering to the engagement problem, how to mix it with human factor and why human factor actually in particular is so important in the education and in learning process. And that brought us to conclusion that AI will not replace students. Actually, we are safe. I'm sorry,
Teachers.
not replace teachers, exactly, sorry. But students are safe as well, although AI is learning faster than students, I guess. Then we spoke a bit about advice for education leaders. And you said important things like stop, don't buy, do small pilots after that, experiment and discover real results. Whether they are, and if you don't see real the results, kill the solution, don't invest into it. And then just a few minutes ago, you presented us with your 10 years future overview, that if we in 10 years have fewer lost geniuses, and if edtech tools are able to help people to start a new path in your life, then we do it good. If we give people confidence and like a good way to start a new path in your life when when things are changing, and they are always changing, that's the way that's the way we will be able to say that we used this moment well.
Yeah.
And I love when you say about the responsibility in education, because that's really important, especially from the edtech vendor perspective. You have to do it responsibly.
We have responsibility.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you again. My guest was Greg Margas.
Thank you, Chris, for inviting me. And what? Have a good Monday, the rest of the day.
That made this Monday better. Thank you.
Thank you so much.